There are three types of people in the world. There are those who can count and those who can't. Cribbage is all about counting. The object of the game is to get to 121 points. I learned how to play cribbage when I was 16 years old. My mom taught me, and then I went on to teach my husband, and I will tell you that if I could teach him, I could teach anybody. So here we go. Uh, my cribbage board is a beast of a thing. It's, as you can see, it's pretty big, like on top of my head. It's huge. Um, the pegs are made out of metal, like they're almost like nails or screws. If you don't have a cribbage board, you could always just use a paper and pen. Just keep track of what your point scores are. So the other thing that you need, which is pretty important, is just a standard deck of cards, 52. So you have to cut the deck to determine who's going to deal. So that person will deal out 6 cards to each player. Once the opponent and the dealer look at their hands, they pick out 2 cards to discard into the crib, which is an extra hand for the dealer to count up. The opponent of the dealer must now cut the deck for the dealer to turn over the top card or the cut card, which is a wild card that will benefit both players as an additional card to count with your hand, but you don't get to see it until after you discard your cards into the crib. Once the cut card is flipped over, then you can start playing your cards. Card values are ace is 1, and then 2 to 10 are face value. All of the face cards themselves, Jack, Queen, King, are all worth 10 points. You play your cards into separate piles to make sure that your cards don't get mixed in, because you are going to count up the value of your hand at the end. So the first player plays a card, and then the next player announces the sum of the cards. So you play your cards into your piles until the score of 31 is reached. So yeah, and then once everybody's out of cards, then you move on to the showing of your hand. So that's when you count up your cards, and so the dealer counts their hand first, and then their opponent will count their hand, and then the dealer will count their crib. It's good to maintain this practice, especially towards the end. Very important to know who gets to count first, because that will determine a winner. And if the opponent counts their hand and says, "Oh, I won," it's not really fair because it was the dealer who was supposed to go first. So that's just something important to know about cribbage. Scoring in cribbage, whether it's during playing or showing portion, works like this. There's pairs, triples, and quadruples. Pairs are worth 2 points. Triples, or 3 of a kind, are worth 6, and quadruples, or 4 of a kind, are worth 12. Then there's runs, which any 3 cards in a row form a run. So each card in the run adds up like to 1 point. So a run of 3 is 3 points, a run of 4 is 4 points, and so on. A flush is when all of the cards in your hand are the same suit, and if it's just the ones in the hand you're holding, then it's 4 points, and if it's also in the cut hand, like the cut card, then it's 5 points. 15s are the cards that you have that add up to 15. So if you've got 10 and a 5, or 8 and 7, 9 and 6, any of those ones count, and the more you have, the more points. Each 15 is worth 2 points. When you're playing, you should try to avoid letting your opponent get 15 points. So if you're the first one to play, you don't want to put a 5 down, because they could follow up with a face card or a 10, because the odds are pretty good that they'll have one in their hand. So yeah, you don't want to give them a chance to peg, but you sure do hope that they'll play a 5 so that you can do that to them. Cribbage is all about strategy. During gameplay, when you're putting your hand down, the point is to get to 31 points. So every time you get to 31, you get 2 points. If you can't get to 31, like the last person to play a card gets a point, which is called a go point. If the dealer turns over a jack after you cut, they get 2 points for that jack. It's just that if you have a jack in your hand that matches the suit of the cut card, then you get a point to peg when you count your hand. I know it's strange to see a unicorn in a cribbage presentation, but a unicorn represents the next hand I'm about to show you, which is a 19 hand, meaning it has no points because a 19 hand is impossible, just like a unicorn. This is a simple run, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't get much simpler than a 3-point run. This is a nice hand. It just has 4 points, but there's a 15 and a pair. This hand has a pair royale, which is a 3 of a kind with the kings, and the 1 and 4 make 5, so we've got 3 15s for 6 points. This hand has 3 3s, so there's a lot of points to be had there with the 9 and the 6. This hand is crazy. It's got a double run and some 15s. This is the perfect hand, 29. You can't get higher than that. Cribbage, noun, a substitute for conversation among those whom nature has denied ideas. What do you think of that?